Listen closely, my friends. There are things you do every day that are making you look weaker than you are. Not dramatically, not in ways that anyone is announcing, but in the quiet accumulation of small habits that signal something to everyone watching, to your colleagues, to your friends, to the people who are deciding, consciously or not, how much weight to give your words, how seriously to take your presence, how much respect to extend or withhold. And here is what makes this important. Most of the habits that signal weakness are not what people expect. They are not about physical appearance, not about money, not about status. They are about the specific way you carry yourself, through the ordinary moments that nobody talks about, but everyone notices, the way you respond when things go wrong, the way you speak about yourself and others, the way you handle the small discomforts that most people avoid without realizing how much that avoidance is costing them. The Stoics understood this completely. They understood that genuine strength, the kind that commands genuine respect, is not performed in the big moments. It is built and revealed in the small ones. Marcus Aurelius did not earn the respect of an empire through dramatic displays of power. He earned it through the specific quality of how he showed up in every ordinary moment of an extraordinarily demanding life. And today, 6 habits that signal weakness that the Stoics avoided completely and that you can begin eliminating. Starting today, before we begin, I want to say something important. This is not about performing strength, not about pretending, not about the aggressive display of toughness that most people mistake for genuine power. The Stoic version of strength is quiet, settled. It does not need an audience. It does not need to announce itself. It simply is. And the person who has genuinely built it does not look strong because they are trying to look strong. They look strong because they are not trying to be anything other than what they are. That quality, the specific settled genuineness of someone who has nothing to prove, is what we are building today. Habit 1. Complaining, constantly and without purpose. Here is the first habit, and the most common, the complaint, not the honest acknowledgement of a genuine problem. Not the specific naming of something that needs to be changed, the habitual, reflexive, automatic reaching for the negative framing of every situation that does not go exactly as intended. The traffic, the weather, the people who did not do what they were supposed to, the situation that is difficult, the day that is not going well. And here is what constant complaining signals to everyone who hears it, that the person complaining is at the mercy of their circumstances, that what happens outside controls how they feel inside, that they have not built the specific internal resource that allows a person to meet difficulty without narrating it to everyone within earshot. Marcus Aurelius faced more genuine difficulty than most people reading this will ever encounter: wars, plagues, political betrayal, personal loss. And his private journal, written for no audience, contains almost no complaint. It contains examination, preparation, the honest naming of difficulty, combined with the immediate question, what do I do with this? Not, can you believe this is happening? What do I do with this? That shift from the outward complaint to the inward question is the specific practice that separates the person who is controlled by circumstances from the person who meets them. Here is the practice. The next time the complaint arrives, before it leaves your mouth, ask one question: is this naming something I am going to change, or is this just noise? If it is noise, let it stay inside, and redirect the energy to the question that actually helps. What do I do with this? Habit 2. Seeking validation before every decision. This is the habit that signals, more clearly than almost anything else, that the person doing it does not trust their own judgment. And the person who does not trust their own judgment is the person whose judgment nobody else trusts either. You see it everywhere, the constant checking in, the need for agreement before proceeding. The decision made, but not moved on, until 3 different people have confirmed it is the right one. The opinion offered, but immediately qualified, in case the room disagrees. The plan formed, but presented as a question, rather than a position. Do you think I should? Do you think that is okay? That makes sense. Am I right about this? And each question, however innocent it seems, signals the same thing. I am not sure I can trust myself here. I need you to tell me I am right, before I will believe it. Epictetus said, never depend on the admiration of others. That instruction extends to the validation. The constant seeking of it is the dependence. And the dependence removes the very quality it is seeking to confirm. Because the person who validates themselves through their own honest assessment of the evidence, and then moves, regardless of whether the room confirms it, is the person whose presence commands natural authority. Not because they are always right, because they trust themselves enough to find out. Habit 3, talking more than you listen, especially about yourself. Here is a truth that is uncomfortable to hear. The person who talks the most about themselves is usually the least interesting person in the room. Not because their life is uninteresting, because the need to narrate it constantly reveals something. A specific hunger for the room's attention that genuine confidence never produces, because genuine confidence does not need the room's attention. It is comfortable without it. The person who talks constantly, who brings every conversation back to their own experience, who cannot let a silence pass without filling it with something about themselves, is communicating something underneath the words. I need you to know about me. I need you to see me. I need your attention to feel okay in this room. And that need, however understandable, is visible, and it reduces the very attention it is trying to capture. Because the most magnetic person in any room is almost always the one asking the most genuine questions, the one most interested in what others are saying, the one whose attention is a gift because it is not automatically given, because it has to be earned through the specific quality of what the other person brings. Epictetus said, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so that we can listen twice as much as we speak. The person who practices that ratio, in a world where almost everyone is doing the opposite, becomes genuinely rare, and rare attention is the most compelling kind. Habit 4. Reacting emotionally to small provocations. This habit costs more than most people ever calculate, because here is what an emotional reaction to a small provocation reveals. That the trigger, the comment, the look, the specific small thing that caused the reaction, had access to something vulnerable, had the ability to reach something inside, and move it significantly, visibly, publicly. And the person who can be moved by the small things announces to everyone watching, here is where to push, here is what gets through. Here is the specific lever that produces the reaction you might be looking for. Marcus Aurelius wrote, how much more harmful are the consequences of anger than the circumstances that aroused it? The small provocation costs a fraction of what the reaction costs. The reaction, the visible emotional response, costs the authority that took months to build, costs the respect that was accumulated slowly, costs the specific impression of someone who is settled, who cannot be rattled, who processes what arrives without performing it for the room. Here is the practice. When the small provocation arrives, and it will arrive, every day, in various forms, 3 seconds, 3 breaths, long enough for the reaction to downgrade from performance to private feeling. The feeling is allowed, the performance of the feeling is what costs you. Keep the feeling. Chalchen the performance, 3 seconds every time. Habit 5, blaming others consistently for your own results. This is the habit that, more than any other, removes the power from a person, not because blame is never justified, sometimes it genuinely is, but the habit of consistent blame The pattern of looking outside. Every time something goes wrong, for the person or the circumstance responsible, has a specific and devastating effect. It removes the one thing that could actually change the results, your agency, because here is the logic of consistent blame. If the results are caused by external things, then the fixing of the results requires external things to change, which means you wait, without power, without movement. Without the only thing that actually produces different outcomes, your own different choices. The Stoics were not naive about external factors. They acknowledged them, but they immediately redirected. From what caused this, to what I do with this, from whose fault, to what is mine to address, Epictetus said, "Seek not that the things which happen should happen as you wish, but wish the things which happen to be as they are." The person who takes responsibility for their response, even when the situation was genuinely not their fault, is the most powerful person in any difficult situation, because they are the only one not waiting. Not waiting for the external thing to change, not waiting for the apology, not waiting for the recognition that they were wronged, moving with whatever is in their control, which is always more than blame suggests. Habit 6. Avoiding discomfort consistently. When growth requires it, this is the most important habit on this list, and the quietest, because this habit does not announce itself. It is not visible in the moment. It happens in the small private choices, the decision to stay comfortable. When the growing thing was the other option, the choice of the easier path. When the harder one was the one that built something. The conversation avoided, the risk deferred, the skill not built, because the process of building it would have required the specific discomfort of not yet being good at it, and comfort chosen consistently. Overgrowth produces something specific, not comfort smallness. The specific smallness of a life that is exactly the size of the comfort zone, and no bigger. The Stoics practiced voluntary discomfort deliberately, consistently, not because they enjoyed it, because they understood the most important relationship available. The relationship between the discomfort chosen and the capability built. Every time you choose the discomfort, you are building something. The specific resilience, the specific capability, the specific knowledge that this kind of difficulty is navigable. And the person who has built that knowledge across many chosen discomforts, across many small private decisions, to do the harder thing, is the person who can meet the large discomforts when they arrive without being broken by them. Because they have been practicing, not for the audience, in private every day, in the small choice that nobody sees, but everyone eventually feels, in the presence of someone who made it. So here are the 6 habits: complaining without purpose, seeking validation before every decision, talking more than listening, especially about yourself, reacting emotionally to small provocations, blaming others consistently for your own results, avoiding discomfort when growth requires it. 6 habits, all of them common, all of them costly, all of them replaceable, with the specific practices that the Stoics built their character around, not overnight, not dramatically. In the small daily choices that accumulate into something that people feel before they can name it, the settled quality, the unrattled presence. The specific weight that comes from someone who has clearly built something inside that the outside world cannot easily touch. That is not performance. That is the result of the small private choices made consistently in the direction of genuine strength. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one. Not for the audience, not for the recognition. For the specific quality of the person you are becoming, in the private choices that nobody else sees, but that you will carry into every room, every relationship, every moment where what you have built inside becomes visible in how you show up outside. Build it, Starting today, in the next small choice, listen closely, my friends. One final time, strength is not loud, it is not aggressive, it is not the performance of someone who is trying to prove something. Genuine strength, the Stoic kind, is quiet, settled, built in the daily practice of the habits that most people never examine and never change. You just examined them. Now change them, one habit. Starting today, if this gave you something worth acting on, share it with one person who needs to hear that genuine strength is not what most people think it is. Subscribe for new Stoic wisdom every single week.